Good evening. Andrew, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right, let's get into it. Right. I just want to point out on Tuesdays the show finished 9 or a few minutes before, but today's Monday. Right, we started the perk discussing. We also have to decide what time on Shabbos. Please make a decision.
You can revisit.
Right.
That's how we started
Lemaisa, the perk started off talking about which things you're allowed to save if a person has a fire. And one of the things one is allowed to save is a Sefer Torah. And then we had many different questions about different Sefer Torah which are decayed, Sefer Torah written in a foreign language, Sefer Torah written in the wrong kind of ink. That was the whole of discussion yesterday. Because of that, we now go on to a small tangent discussing Sefer Torah written by Apikos. So we're up to Daf Kuf Tezayin Amud Aleph Gufa, which is 7 lines of the very wide lines on Kuf Tezayin Amud Aleph. Or a bit more, maybe 10 lines from there. Gufa. Hagilonim, the margins of Sifei, minim, in my sin and osim pnei adleika, you don't save them from a fire. So if you've got a Sefer from Apikos in the home, even if it's a Sefer Torah, you don't save them from a fire. A weekday kudos as goes to cut out the name of Hashem Shabuhen, the goings on, put that in Shemus Hashal Seifon and you burn it. I will kill my enemies, my sons should rather die. If I don't do this, if they come to my hands, I would burn them and the names of Hashem. He holds up Talfun that a Sefer Torah written by Apikoros, you burn the Sefer Torah with the name of Hashem inside it. There are two mahalchim in the Rishonim. Why would you burn a Sefer Torah that has the name of Hashem inside it, written by Apikoros? Some say because when he writes the name of Hashem, he means his avodah zarah. So therefore, it's not actually the name of Hashem. He's saying Adoi, the Noi. So what's he referring to? He's referring to whatever God that he serves. So it's not really the name of Hashem. Others hold that even if he is referring to Hashem, since he himself is an Apikoros, so therefore the writing that he does has no kedusha. Since it has no kedusha, therefore the name of Hashem has no value. So he says like this: even if a person's chasing after one to kill him, what's like a snake to bite him. Someone's allowed to run into avodah zarah just to escape. But you mustn't go into the house on Apikoros. Why? If the avodah zarah are ignorant, they don't know about Hashem, so therefore going to their house is not so damaging. But those who know about Hashem but choose to go against Him, those are much, much worse, much more dangerous, and therefore you're not allowed to save your life by escaping into their homes. Zoinech is the memory of Hashem, and you put it behind the door. Behind the door is derogatory. That means what happens is they knew about Hashem, but they decided not to respect Him. And that's worse than those that don't know about Hashem. The Rambam writes, there are two kinds of apikosos. There are those who ignore the presence of Hashem completely. But there are much worse. There are those who know about Hashem, but what happens is they develop theories which are against Emunah. And that's much more damaging because he says it's much more infectious in the sense that somebody who knows nothing about Hashem, if you just teach it to him and explain it to him, there's a chance to pick it up. Those who believe, like they know about Hashem, but but even so have different ideas about, they ignore Hashem's power and things like that, that is much more dangerous because it's much more convincing. Omar Bishmol Kavachim continues with the same idea, but brings from a different Makor. I say to we rub out the name of Hashem. Why? Just to make peace between husband and wife. The husband's not sure if his wife betrayed him, so therefore rub out the name, and then that way he can verify it. They cause hatred between Klal and Hashem. I hate your enemies, those who go against you, I battle with. Tachlis sinos nesim. The utmost hatred, I've hated these people. Le'oivim hayuli, they were my enemies. Anybody over here hate Apikoson? Hate Lapid? Or you hate, I don't know, who do you call Apikos? Netanyahu, you hate the head of the conservative movement in America. I don't know his name. Does anybody hate them? Look at David HaMelech's words. Tachlis sinas anesim, the utmost hatred of hating them. I mentioned it because I don't want to go off the point too much, but a couple of years ago in Ahmadiyya, somebody wrote a biography about the father. If I'm not mistaken, it was Nominska Rebbe's son, about a father who was, I think, the Truska Rebbe. I might be wrong with the names. And he wrote that he never hated anybody, not even Rishoim, because he realized that hatred doesn't do anything. In fact, what he would do is he loved everybody, and he said that hatred actually damages the person who hates. So somebody wrote back, how can you write such a thing about such a person? You see, David Melech did hate. And for a couple of weeks, this is maybe more than a few years ago, it could be 10, 20 years ago, there was back and forth for a couple of weeks, whether you're supposed to hate or show him. I don't know. All I can tell you is the Pasuk says. It's a very interesting Pasuk, because if you think about it, it's one of the things that nowadays, very, very few people feel an abomination. If you read Victor Miller's writings, he hated Rishoim. He spoke badly of them. But nowadays, that feeling has been lost. Even the most fun person you meet around, he always feels that these people, I'm not talking about Tinik Shanishba, I'm talking about people who Mamish Rishoim. I know actually something. Mamish, he teaches Apikosis. I don't hate him. But I should. The Pasuk says, Tachlis sinas anesim. I'm wondering if we hate these people. Maisa says we should. Anyway, just like you don't save the sifter from a fire, and you're not allowed to save it not from a stone falling, not from water, not from anything that makes them destroyed. So therefore, a sefer Torah written about Apikoros should not be saved in any form. Okay. So far the Gemara just said to us that a sefer Torah with Apikoros got machlokas, whether we cut out the names and put the names in Shemus and destroy the sefer Torah, or we destroy everything. Now the Gemara says like this: Hani suffered be'avidon matzinos without leiko imatzin. There were these philosophers that were not apikosim. Rather, what they would do is they were debaters. They would spend all the time debating about Torah mitzvahs. So their books, should one save it or not? That means they're not genuine apikosim, but on the other hand, they weren't Yerei they were debaters. In the lab after a day, he wasn't sure. He would sometimes say yes, sometimes say no. Rav would never go to these debating houses. The Kosh can be Natsufi, and he wouldn't go to be Natsufi. Rashi says that was actually a house of Ridazor. Shmuel be Natsufi le'ozel, he wouldn't go to the house of Ridazor. Le'be'avidon ozel, he would go to those who debate. Why don't you come to this house? There's a certain tree which is in the way, and it's difficult for me. And Rashi explains he was looking for straw excuse, meaning the flimsiest excuse. Any excuse says, why don't you go? So there's a tree on the way, I can't. So they said to him, we'll uproot the tree. So he said, Duchte koshali. The way of the tree is also disturbing, because when you uproot a tree, it usually leaves a hole in the ground, and the ground is not smooth. And Rava found any excuse not to go. It was diplomatic to get away. I'm one of the debaters. I'm not scared. So in the they tried to kill him. It means the Gemara over here, that's how Rashi explains as well, is that besides for that ashkofa problem, when a person goes to these houses and places, they are dangerous for a person's life. I don't know if you ever read it, Sefer Bikuach of the Ramban. The Ramban in his lifetime made a huge debate with the Christian Galachim, priests of those days, and he wrote a whole Sefer describing the Sefer Bikuach, very, very interesting. Just a very brief, because we want to discuss, this is really the more of that debate, just the 2 points that he writes again and again in his Sefer, just interesting what he does. One is that the Kehillah begged him to tone down his message, because they said if you speak very negatively about Yoshki, which he did speak very negatively, then eventually there'll be a backlash, and we will be kicked out. Eventually the Ramban himself had to flee for his life. He won the debate, but years later they decided that he was entitled to win the debate, but he wasn't entitled to write about it. And the book that he wrote about it, they felt was disrespectful. It's a very complicated historical story, but what happened was, he said to them, I can't tone it down, because even if it means risking my life, there are Jewish people out there listening, and therefore what happens is, if I tone it down, there's a small chance, if I don't speak so negatively about him, they will get the wrong impression. And better me and thousands likely should die than people should chas v'shalom think that I do that in some way. So he spoke very bezilzum. The second thing he discusses a lot there in the Sefer Vikuach, it's an interesting point, is he argues to them, and he always says to them, I'm only ready to argue about anything else when you've proven your main point. And your main point being that Yoshki was Mashiach. After you've proven that, I'll argue with other things. And what happens is they never get past that discussion, because he always says to them that nothing which Mashiach has promised has ever come to bear. And what happens is he refuses to get caught up in anything else. He keeps saying, answer that. Okay, just interesting. He got a big reward from the king of Spain from it, thousands of gold coins because he won the. Anyway, now the Gemara tells us just an interesting story, how they made mockery of an Apikoros. Ema Sholem, that's the name of a woman. Ema Sholem, she was called Ema Sholem, that was the name of a woman. The Bisu du Abelezer, she was the wife of Abelezer, Achse den Gamliel Aboy. She was a sister of Gamliel. Does anybody know where it makes any difference that Abelezer's wife was the sister of Gamliel? The interesting Gemara about it. Anybody know about the Gemara about Mutzil? That Abelezer and Gamliel once had an argument, and what happened was, so she stopped her husband from ever saying Tachanun again. But she was scared that if he would say Tachnun, her brother would die. And one day she thought it was a Chodesh, and it wasn't, and he said Tachnun, and she said, I need to sit Shiv, and indeed her brother died. Because when the Blazer said Tachanun, had such krach in davening, that because he had an argument with Gamliel died. Okay. So Gamliel and Abelezer were brothers-in-law, for the sake of, to make it simpler. How about who philosopher B'Shivavusi? There was this judge, who was also a Apikoros, Rashi says, who lived in their neighborhood. Top of the Zayin on the base. He had a name about it. This Apikoros was a judge that he never takes sheichat. He wants to make fun of him. So what did they do? She took in to this judge a golden lamp as bribery. And they came in front of him. So that's the sister of Gamliel. She said to the judge, I want to divide the property of my father. That means my brother Gamliel got all the Yerusha, I want half. So the judge said, you have to divide it. So Gamliel said to the judge, in the Torah it says that if there's only a son and a daughter, the son gets, not the daughter. From the day he went into Golus, the Torah of Moshe has been rejected instead of a different book, the New Testament. And therefore, we've got a new book, and there it says, that sons and daughters get the same amount. So therefore, the judge, officially, who was the uncorruptible judge, that had already received his bribe of a golden lamp, said, and they started telling you have to divide it because there's a new book out which says that you do. So what happened? The next day, and Gamliel gave him a more expensive gift. He gave him a donkey of lube. Some say it's from Libya, some say it's particularly white kind of donkey, a very expensive donkey. So the judge now changed his mind. Shveil is the Sefer the Sifra. We have to read the end of this new book. In this book it says, I never came to add to Moshe or to minus from Moshe. And in Moshe's Torah it said, and the place where there's a son or girl doesn't get anything. So the sister said to the judge, no, you should light up like a lamp. She wanted to remind him of the bribery that she had given him. She had given him a golden lamp, and he was judging against him. Her. Gamliel said, a donkey came, kicked over the lamp. And Gamliel was making fun of the judge. The two of them made up a din Torah, and they each gave a bribery on a different day, and the judge swung around according to whichever bribe was bigger. And then when the din Torah was finished, she turns around and says, but I gave you a golden lamp. And Gamliel says, I'm very sorry, but my donkey kicked over the lamp, and therefore you've lost it. Okay. Now we go back to the din of the Mishnah. Mishnah says that what? That you're not allowed to read ksuvim. Why not? It stops people from going to the Rosh. If they mind only in the time when the Rav would speak. But not, in the afternoon, for example, one is allowed to read ksuvim. You're not allowed to read even when it's not the time, like in the afternoon. You're not allowed to read ksuvim the entire day. Can that Shmuel possibly say, but Na'ador asked the Shmuel have it. Na'ador was the town of Shmuel. But Na'ador, Poski Siddur, ksuvim in the Shabbos. They would actually laying from ksuvim in Mincha. It's interesting that this minhag is brought down in the Geonim. That we only read from Torah by Mincha, right? We only do 3 aliyahs and that's it. In the olden days, they would actually read, just like we do Haftarah in the morning, they would do Haftarah in the afternoon from Ksuvim. So you see that they did do ksuvim on Shabbos. Not like you just said that according to Shmuel, you're not allowed to do ksuvim. Only in shul. If somebody never went to shul, so he's allowed to read ksuvim at home because he's anyway not going to hear the Rav's drasha because he's at home. So there's nothing wrong with him reading ksuvim. At the time when the Rav would speak, you cannot read ksuvim. As Rashi explains, because what will happen is people will then prefer to stay at home and read Tehillim and Daniyah, which are interesting, rather than going to hear the Rav's drasha. So they made a takana that while the Rav speaks, even if you're at home, you're not allowed to read it. In the afternoon, you are allowed to. Right? When that in Mincha on Shabbos, they would read psukim of ksuvim. Rashi says no, like we said originally, that Shmuel holds the entire Shabbos, you're not allowed to read ksuvim. You're not allowed to read ksuvim the entire Shabbos. The Gemara asks the kasha, if that's the case, why would they read ksuvim in Mincha of Shabbos in Nado? The Shmuel kom Nechemia, the Tanya. There's a machlekes tanoim. Why you're not allowed to read ksuvim on Shabbos? Tanakama says, you're allowed to read. It means you're allowed to look up something, learn something from it. You could dash it from them. And nitzach leposuk, maybe you're allowed to look up a posuk. And he's not allowed to read ksuvim, but you can learn ksuvim. You can quote ksuvim. You can dash in ksuvim. You can't read it. Reading is a leisure thing, and that's forbidden. Why not allowed to read ksuvim? Because I mean, exactly. So the Gemara later is going to tell us that one's not allowed to read documents on Shabbos. And this is a very chomer gezer. Made a gezer not allowed to read documents on Shabbos because there's a gezer you might come to add, let's say you read your bank statements, you might come to write, delete, etc. So you're not allowed to read documents on Shabbos. Then Nehemiah says, in order for Chazal to strengthen that gezerah, they came up with another gezerah, that you're not allowed to read ksuvim on Shabbos, because if you read ksuvim, you may come to read Torah Doitis. Read Torah Doitis, you may come to write or delete. So according to Nehemiah, it's nothing to do with the Rav speaking. So therefore, the more now explains this of Rashi's explanation in Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, is that Rav and Shmuel are arguing why not allowed to read ksuvim. According to Rav, it's because of the Rav's drasha, so it's only forbidden in the morning when he would speak. According to Shmuel, the reason is because of Nehemiah that we want to make sure that people don't read Torah Doitis. So if that's the case, it makes no difference whether it's morning or afternoon. The entire Shabbos is not allowed to read ksuvim. So now it comes back to the question, if that's the case, why in the Hador, the place of Shmuel, would they read ksuvim in Mincha? We just said that you're not allowed to read ksuvim in Mincha. The answer is because Shmuel let the community follow the Tanakama, which is the Chachamim, which is the Rabbim, rather than Nehemiah was the Yochid, because Yochid Rabbim are Lochid Rabbim. Shmuel himself, Lamaisa, held like Nehemiah, that you're not allowed to read ksuvim the entire day. Only he did not wish to impose this halacha on the community, since that was going in the shit of the Yochid, and the Rabbim hold the reason why it's also to read ksuvim is only because of the Rav's drasha. It comes out that if you work it through, there's actually two different explanations which are Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. Starting from the second one first. According to the second explanation, Rav holds you're not allowed to read ksuvim during the morning. Shmuel holds you're not allowed to read ksuvim the entire day. Rav's reason is because of the Rav's drasha. Shmuel's reason is because you might come to read Torah Doitis. That's one way to understand Machlokes. The second way to understand Machlokes is that everybody agrees it's only forbidden in the morning. Rav says it's only forbidden in shul, but out of shul one is allowed to read ksuvim, because the whole problem is you will disturb the Rav's drasha. According to Shmuel, even out of shul you're not allowed to read ksuvim, because if you read it out of shul, you won't come to shul, and then you'll miss the Rav's drasha. So there's two ways to understand it. Oh, I was just about to say, it's a good question. According to Nehemiah. So the second text over here, I don't know whether to read it through with you, because I myself cannot say that to keep it. You know, on last Friday night, I decided I'm going to, because we learned about walking less than an hour each step. And I only managed to keep it Friday night, but Shabbos morning I can't keep it anymore. I don't know, did any of you try it? To make sure, you have to make sure, try it. No, that I didn't try, because that's too difficult. But you mustn't, between each step, there mustn't be more than the length of your shoe between each step. I found it very, very, very difficult. I don't know. No, try it. You should try it. Take it. Walk on Shabbos. What? Daven shul. Okay, but even so, it was hard. It was hard to walk hard. That's on the way home I managed, but by Shabbos morning I couldn't manage it. No, because if you get used to it, anyway, and even more difficult, I don't say even more difficult, this taste is, Koshko Shtoy do it, it's the second taste. First, because just Igris, you're not allowed to read letters on Shabbos. There's a taste, Rashi, this is the second taste, I'm reading the second taste. Rashi says you're not allowed to read any letters on Shabbos. So Taman says taste, people do read letters. That they show you allowed to move them, you can use them as a bottle stopper. So Taisa says that he doesn't agree with Rashi, but you are allowed to read letters. You're just not allowed to read documents. And Taisa adds, I'm not going to read word on word for it. Taisa adds that you never know, a letter might have pikuach nefesh. So if you get a letter from your son in yeshiva, or from your parents, or from out of town, you might have pikuach nefesh, allowed to read it. And then Taisa says, goes through and through, and then he says, but a Maisa, let's go if you've got it, 6 lines from the end of Taisa. So me, history books, which describe battles near Rabbi Yehuda the Osel Ein Bohem. Of course, you're not allowed to read them on Shabbos. And he's not allowed to read books on Shabbos. You're not even allowed to read small signs up. Even on weekday, who says you're ever allowed to read a book? So Taisa says he's not allowed to read books, not on weekday, not on Shabbos, maybe not. He says that, but he argues with Rashi regarding letters. The heter of Taisa of reading letters is based on the fact that might have to pikuach nefesh. Rufalk writes in Zocher v'Shomor that nowadays nobody puts pikuach nefesh into their letters. But since in the end of the day, Chazal in the times of the Rishonim permitted it, it is hard to forbid it, and therefore one who wants to read a letter is allowed to. But a person who wants to be extra stringent should not. No, so when I was a bocher in yeshiva, I used to write to my parents, that's older days, write every week, and would leave the flap tucked in and not seal it so they should be able to read it on Shabbos. That's how we all did it in those days. No, you are allowed to. If you do it in a ruined way, without, when you ruin the envelope and you don't tear through letters, it's okay. So I don't know. That's what it says. That's how the short it goes to taste. Taste says you're not allowed to. We'll get to it more later. It's a very hard. There's one very big heter. There's a heter of a Taz. The Taz holds that anything which is enjoyable, which is Einig Shabbos, is even allowed to be over an Issa to attain it. The Taz is talking about a different story. The Taz is talking about somebody knows there's a circus in town, and the only way to get there, because it's so far, is to run. The Taz says you're allowed to run to go there. Oh, you're not allowed to run on Shabbos. Says the Taz, because since it's Einig Shabbos to see it, therefore you're allowed to run to go there. And many poskim, many of the very later day poskim, use this Taz to permit reading books on Shabbos. Because they say that reading books on Shabbos is Einig Shabbos, and the Taz says that you're allowed to run to a circus. It's quite similar. I'm saying it's not so... I don't know if that tickets in those days. It takes the Taz. Okay, if there's no A, you can't. If there's A, you can. Okay. Lemaisa, that's the taste. Just because it's a very famous taste. This taste, I have to tell you, it's brought down a lot. Okay. No, it's not, because when they made the Gezerah, this is how they established it. They forbade everything in order that new Mishnah. Matzinin tika sefer ma sefer tika tefillin ma tefillin. The person learned to the Mishnah before he had to save a Sefer Torah. So what happens if the Sefer Torah has got a case around it, or the tefillin's got a bag around it? You're allowed to save the bag with it. Even if you store money inside the bag, which the tefillin and the Sefer Torah is inside, you're allowed to take the bag with the Sefer Torah, with the tefillin, with the money. Where are you allowed to save them? To the movu, which is not a throughway. Even one which is through and through. The Gemara discussed a great length, so we'll leave it to the Gemara discuss what Movad Mefulash and Shedim Mefulash is. So the Mishnah says you're allowed to save the Sefer with money which is inside it. The Gemara now brings a different machlokas and tries to compare that machlokas to this machlokas. To this halacha. Tono Shabbos. If the 14th of Nisan is the Shabbos, so what happens is you're allowed to shecht korban Pesach even on Shabbos. That was a very complicated procedure if you think about it, because if you think about it every year. If you've got a Pesach on the Shabbos, you're allowed to shecht it. You have to shecht it on Shabbos afternoon. But you're not allowed to roast it. So you have to wait for Nacht to roast it. And in the older days, they used to bake the matzahs also on Pesach, because that's the right way to do it. Imagine, let's say Nacht nowadays. What time was Nacht Motzei Shabbos? It's about 8 o'clock? What? No, now. But talk about when Pesach came in. Let's say 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Let's say 8 o'clock in the evening. After Nacht comes, Then you roast the Korban Pesach, because you can't roast it on Shabbos. You roast the entire animal, bake your matzahs, read the entire Agada, say hello, and it all has to be finished by Chatzos. So now you have to, but now the problem is, there's certain things you were allowed to do on Shabbos, and certain things you were not allowed to do on Shabbos. So it was like this. You're allowed to strip, that means you're allowed to peel off the skin until the breast. You're allowed to take off all the skin. Taking off the skin, which is a deraisa. Mafshit, you're not allowed to skin an animal on Shabbos. So why were you allowed to skin it at all? The answer is because you had to, the parts, a Korban Pesach, parts are put on the Mizbeach, parts were eaten by the owner. The parts that was put on the Mizbeach, you were allowed to burn them on Shabbos, because that was part of the Korban Pesach. So because you had to access them, so therefore the halacha was that according to Rabbi Shmuel, you were allowed to peel back the skin as much as needed to access the pieces which you would then put on the Mizbeach. The Chachamim say you're allowed to strip the entire animal. The reason you're allowed to strip the animal, you're allowed to skin it, is because you need to get to the pieces that go on the Mizbeach, and that's part of that avodah. So it's necessary for Hashem. What's the svar according to the Chachamim? Everything that you do is for the sake of Hashem, and this is also for the sake of Hashem. It's an asmachta, it's like a remez. It says, what purpose is there for Hashem that you should strip the animal, that you should skin it on Shabbos? Why can't you wait for Motzei Shabbos? The roasting anyway is going to be done Motzei Shabbos. Why can't you skin it for Motzei Shabbos? Well, there's two answers. If you don't skin an animal after it's dead, the animal starts smelling very bad. A dead animal which has not been skinned looks very, very bad. It looks like a dead carcass. It looks like a dead cow fallen down on the street. So therefore, because it's bizarre kodshim, so again, Rabbi Shmuel says you're allowed to skin enough to be able to get to the pieces you put on the Mizbeach. The Chachamim say you're allowed to skin the entire animal. Why allowed to skin the entire animal? Two explanations. Either that it shouldn't smell, or that it shouldn't look bad. My benai, what's the difference? If it's put on a golden table, gold is very, very cold. Metal generally is cold. So therefore, it makes sure the things don't start smelling. In Nami Yom a very cold northerly wind day, where you don't have the problem on a gold table on a cold day that it's going to smell, but you do have the problem that it looks bad. So according to that, that's the nafkamina according to these two answers, whether you're allowed to skin the animal even on a day when it's cold, or even on a day when you go gold table, or you're allowed to. If the problem is because it looks bad, you're allowed to. If not, then you're not allowed. Says what would you do with this passage, which seems to be saying that you're supposed to serve Hashem and find every way possible? As there is actually possible to take out the limbs which you need to put on the Mizbeach without skinning the animal. How? What you do is, instead of skinning the animal, you cut into the animal, and then you pull out from the animal the pieces that you need to put on the Mizbeach. Says Rabbi Shmuel, from Kol Poyal Hashem L'Ma'aneyu, we learn that you're allowed to skin the animal as much as necessary to get to the pieces that go on the Mizbeach. Says the Gemara, my time, why? What's the difference between skinning it and just cutting through and pulling out? Because what happens is hairs will get stuck. When you skin it, so then the pieces come out nicely and you put them in the Mizbeach. But when you don't skin it and you just cut and you slit through it and then you pull out the pieces will have hair and pieces of the skin attached to the parts that will go on the Mizbeach. And when you put it on the Mizbeach, it doesn't look so nice. So we've got over here really three different opinions exactly how much you're allowed to skin on Shabbos, which is Erev Pesach. Rabbi Shmuel says you're allowed to skin as much as you can get to the pieces, and you don't have to cut through, slit through. You can actually skin it. Why? In order to be able to put the pieces on the Mizbeach properly. The Chachamim say you're allowed to skin the entire animal. One man says because it looks bad, and then you're always allowed to skin the animal, whether it's a cold day, a hot day, whether you've got a place to put it or not. One says only because it's going to smell, and then if it's going to smell, you're allowed to skin the entire animal. If it's a cold day, or you've got a metal gold table to put it on, then you're not allowed to skin it. Says the Gemara. The Gemara had a Mesiris, the Ritual says, that the conversation continued. What was the conversation? The Chachamim said, you're allowed to. He said, no, you're not. So they said to him like this, this is what they argued to him. If you're allowed to say a Sefer Torah with a bag, so you should be allowed to strip the animal. You should be allowed to skin the animal. And now the Gemara is going to spend a long time trying to work out what in the world is the comparison between the two. And that's why it comes up in our house again. In our Mishnah, we learned a special halacha that not only you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah, but you're even allowed to save the bag which the Sefer Torah is in, the container which the Sefer Torah is in. From there, the Chachamim said is a raya that you're allowed to skin an animal. Says, well, what's the connection? Me, dummy, what's the connection? Hasam, tiltul. There, the whole Isra is carrying to a mavui, to a chotzer, maybe a sidra bodom. Hacham alocha, but skinning is Isra deraisa. So you can't compare Isra deraisa of skinning to just saving the bag of the Sefer Torah, which at most is Isra dera bodom. So the Gemara says like this: Omar Rashi b'tarti pligi. In that argument of skinning, they also argued about something else. They argued about skinning and pligi b'tiltul, pligi b'malocha. They argued if you're allowed to skin the animal, and they also argued, are you allowed to move the animal before it has been completely skinned? This is what they said to him. If you're allowed to save a sefer with a bag, or you're not allowed to save the skin and move it around because of the meat. Therefore, you should be allowed to save that. You should be allowed to move the skin. For example, Rashi explains we're talking about when Korban Pesach was put down in a place where it's going to get moldy. The sun's shining on it. And what happened was he didn't skin it completely. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you're not allowed to move it because at the end of the day, the skin is muktzah. According to the Chachamim, you're allowed to. Now, why is the skin muktzah? Rashi tells an interesting thing. Because at the end of the day, we learned earlier, we learned it very quickly, that skins are actually not muktzah. What can you use for skin for? Does anybody remember? We used to use skins as beds. The skin is actually a useful thing. Rashi says here we're talking a skin of a lamb less than a year old. That was totally useless. Therefore, it was muktzah. Again, we're talking about like this. There are two arguments. One is if you're allowed to skin the animal completely or not. And second of all, if you didn't skin it completely, can you move the skin with the meat? So they said to him, you think you're not allowed to. We learn from our Mishnah that you are allowed to. Says the Gemara Daf Yud Zayin on the top of the page. Me, dummy, Haki still can't compare. Hasam by the Korban Pesach, by the Sefer Torah, Nasa bosses of Davar Mutter. The bag is just a container for Davar Mutter, meaning that it's meant, it's a bosses, it's something which is used for something which Mutter, Sefer Torah. Hocha, but over here by the skins, Nasa bosses the Davar Osa. It's a bosses for something which is Osa. The meat is Osa. Sorry, the skin is Osa. Sorry, the skin is Osa. And the meat is a bosses for it. The skin is completely muktzah. So if it's forbidden, how can you compare carrying a bag with a sefer Torah inside to the skin with the meat when the skin is muktzah? Alochi can't relate. The Gemara says no. The comparison is slightly different. In Matzilin Tiksha Sefer Masefa. That means they're going to the second part of the Mishnah. The Mishnah also told us that you're allowed to carry a bag with a sefer Torah even if there's money inside. It says, well, if that's the case, there it's clearly muktzah. The money is muktzah. But nevertheless, to save the Sefer Torah, you're allowed to carry the Sefer Torah out with the bag, even if there's money inside. So too, to save the animal, the dead animal, that it shouldn't go bad, I should be allowed to move it from place to place, even though the skin is muktzah, because I need it for the meat. Says the Gemara, still me dummy. How can you compare? Hasam there by the Sefer Torah, Nasas bosses davar mutter. You got a Sefer Torah which is permitted, and money which is asa. Hacha over here, kulin nasas bosses davar asa. The entire thing is a bosses. And Rashi explains, why is it the whole thing awesome? Because the skin is muktzah, because we said before it's useless. The skin of a lamb less than a year old is useless. And the meat is not cooked. So the meat is also a bosses to davar. So nothing over here is useful. So the whole thing is muktzah. You can't compare Sefer Torah with a bag with money. With a Sefer Torah is not muktzah, and the Sefer Torah is a davar mutter, to something which is completely asa, like this animal which is dead, can't be eaten because it's raw, and the skin can't be used because it's a baby skin. So the whole thing is Mosach. How can you compare? How can the Chachamim argue with Rabbi Shmuel and say to him, yes, you're allowed to move the animal. The proof being that you're allowed to move a Sefer Torah with money inside, there's no comparison. Says, well, no. Halachi can't really. This is what they argued. Let's say a person can't carry the Sefer Torah. It's too heavy. And the only way to carry the Sefer Torah is to take a case, a suitcase. And the suitcase has got money inside it. So you go running into the building which is on fire with a suitcase that has money inside, run into the shul, put the Sefer Torah inside, and then take it out. And that's permitted. So therefore, there, when you're carrying the case with the money inside to go and save the Sefer Torah, at that time, before you carry the Sefer Torah, when you're running in to save it, what are you carrying? Only muktzah things. There's nothing mutter there. And yet it's permitted. so too you should be allowed to move an animal which has got muktzah, because later, after Shabbos goes out, you're going to want to roast the common Pesach and eat it. So therefore it's got value, so therefore it's a mitzvah. Again, let's just do it inside. Who told you that you're allowed to do such a thing? If you look in our Mishnah, the Mishnah never said that. The Mishnah said you're allowed to save a case with a Sefer Torah that has money inside. The Mishnah never mentioned one word about running in with a case which has money and then going to save the Sefer Torah. The Mishnah never talked about it. The Mishnah talked about a case which has already got money and a Sefer Torah inside. They're allowed to save it. But where do you know they're allowed to go in with a muktzah inside it? There's the Gemara. We go from down. If you see from the fact that the Mishnah says you're allowed to carry a Sefer Torah with money, and we don't insist that you throw the money out and take the Sefer Torah. So therefore, the fact that the Mishnah allows you to do A, meaning that you're allowed to take a Sefer Torah with money, is a proof that you're allowed to take B, meaning take the case with money originally to go and save the Sefer Torah. We can't ask you to empty the case, the God case, which got Sefer Torah inside it, and money. If we tell you first get rid of the money and then save the Sefer Torah, what's going to happen? The Sefer Torah might catch fire, you might lose the Sefer Torah. So therefore, we don't insist. Sefer Torah is there, the money's there, we let you take it all out. But over here, it's much worse. Because while you're running to go and save the Sefer Torah with a case that has money inside, all you need to do is tilt the case while you're going in, let the money fall out to go and save the Sefer Torah. So therefore, it's much easier. You should save it. So the Gemara asks, you've got no raya that it's mutter, and this is got no raya it's mutter. What's the comparison? We said right from the beginning that the argument was only, are you allowed to skin or you're not allowed to skin? According to Rabbi Shmuel, you're not allowed to skin the amount you need to put the limbs on the mizbeach. According to the Chum, you're allowed to skin the entire animal. Why according to the Chum, you're allowed to skin the entire animal? Either because it shouldn't smell or it shouldn't look bad. And the Chachamim being arrived from our Mishnah that you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah. And what was our question? Is how can you compare? Skinning is a Issa Deraisa. Saving a Sefer Torah is Issa Derabanan. So how can it bring arrived from our Mishnah to their case of skinning? So it says, you don't need the skin. Since you don't need the skin, it's Dava Shini Miskavan. Dava Shini Miskavan is only also with Derabanan. So for the Chachamim were entitled to use this as a proof. They said, what are you upset about? Skinning. But skinning over here, we don't need the skin. If you don't need the skin, it's Dava Sheni Miskavan. If it's a Dava Sheni Miskavan, then therefore it's only also with Rabbanon. And we see in our Mishnah that we allow you to save the Sefer Torah with Muktzah, which is also Issa Rabbanon. So therefore you see that we allow you to do an Issa Rabbanon for a case which is for a mitzvah purpose, to save the Sefer Torah. So also over here to be able to save their sheep. In the end of the day, how can you call it a Davash Miskavan? Here, it's a definite thing going to happen, like we've mentioned many times. That if a person wants to give his child the head of a chicken to play with, and he cuts off the head and he gives it, he can't say, look, it's a Davash Miskavan, I never intended to kill the chicken. Why? Because it's a definite thing that's going to happen. And therefore it's awesome, and if it is completely awesome in our Torah. If that's the case, skinning is a Issa Deraisa. And then we go back to the question, how can you compare skinning, which is deraisa, to carrying the Sefer Torah, which is only D'Rabbanan? Over here, there we're talking about where you cut it piece by piece. And therefore, since you skin it piece by piece, it is not a normal way of doing a malacha. It's an abnormal way of malacha. It's a malacha b'shinui. A malacha b'shinui is D'Rabbanan. A malacha b'shinui is D'Rabbanan, therefore the Chachamim were entitled to compare the Issa of skinning to the Issa of saving a Sefer Torah. Let's summarize. Regarding a Korban Pesach which was shechted on Shabbos, because Pesach was a Shabbos, there's a machlekes how far you're allowed to skin. Rabbi Shmuel says only the beres minimum, only enough to be able to get the limbs onto the mizbeach. The Chachamim say you're allowed to skin the entire animal, we don't want it to go bad. The Chachamim say being arrived from our Mishnah. They more understand what's the arrived from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is discussing D'Rabbanan, so there it's talking about deraisa, skinning is deraisa. The Maskana says sugya. That's also not deraisa, because we're not talking about a skinning in a way where you're going to get a nice piece of skin. We're talking about when you're just cutting off piece by piece. Piece by piece is only a shvus, it's only D'Rabbanan. Since it's only D'Rabbanan, the fact that we see in our mission that we permit it Issa D'Rabbanan for the sake of the comment of the Sefer Torah leads us to believe that you're allowed to skin an animal to save the common Pesach. They should be user-friendly Motzei Shabbos, that you can actually then roast it properly and they shouldn't go bad. Okay. Next one. Where are you allowed to save it to? Now we're going to Shikram Lechas Avon. So it's very kedai to have it clear both for Avon and also because it's coming up for very, very long. In olden days, everybody used to live in what's called a Mavui and a Chotzer. A Mavui was basically a cul-de-sac. If anybody's been to Castlefield Avenue, Castleton, which other roads, many cul-de-sacs. Okay, right. So you've got a road, and it's got 3 walls already. That's how they had proper walls, those cul-de-sacs. 3 walls. And people in the wall, that was one Mavui. The Mavui was the road which was the main to get in. In the Mavui, there was a number of chatzeros, a number of courtyards that came off the Mavui. From each chatzah, there was a number of houses around the Mavui. Sorry, around the chatzah. So you had a chatzah, let's say 3-4 chatzeros to a Mavui, and 3-4 houses to a chatzah. That's how it was. Let me show you a picture. They don't really pictures these, and therefore it doesn't really help so much. You can really picture it yourself. Now, Minat Torah, you're allowed to actually carry from all these places. Right, here's got a picture. What you can see. You're going into a Mavui. Can you see you going into a Mavui? You're going into a walled thing, and there's doorways. From the doorway to go into a chutz, you can't see, so I'm not sure if you're getting so much. Minat Torah, you're allowed to carry from a house to the chotzer, from the chotzer to the Mavui, from the Mavui to the house. There's no problem at all. Why? It's all the Shusay Yochid. As we said many times, the Shusay Yochid doesn't mean private. It means not public. So if 10 people own it, it's also a Shusay Yochid. Chazal forbade you to carry from the house to the chotzer, and they also forbade from the chotzer to the Mavui. Because each area is slightly more public than the area before. A house to a chotzer, the house is your private house. The chotzer was like a courtyard. I tell you, opposite MH, if you go down Lee Street, there's like a big front garden in front of loads of houses. So that would be like a chotzer. Everybody shares it. So that area belongs to many people. So when you carry from the house into that area, you're carrying from a private domain to a more public domain. So therefore, Chazal said if we allow people to do that, they might carry to Shusarabim. They also forbade to carry from a chotzer into a Mavui. So the only way to do it is to do what's called a Ruvei Chatzeris and Shitufei Mavois. A Ruvei Chatzeris is that everybody in the chotzer joins together, and a Shitufei Mavois is everybody in the Mavui joins together with a piece of bread. That is what we do. Now, in order for Chazal, were not satisfied with that, but what they said is that the Mavui has to have something to remind people that from the Mavui, in the Mavui you can carry, but past the Mavui you can't carry. There has to be either a lechi or a koira. A koira is a beam across, a lechi is a post. You either have a post at the end of the road, a small post, I don't know if you can see them even over here, tiny post at the end of the gates, or a koira going across. If you look, you see certain roads, they actually have these posts. Some people have both. We want to be machmir as much as we can. Okay. So again, we've explained a tiny bit what Mavui is. There's estimate to carry, and you have to have a lechi or a koira, or maybe both. And then what happens is like this. Our Mishnah tells us that you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah. You're allowed to save a Sefer Torah. That's the first Mishnah of the Torah. And where you're allowed to save it to. So here there's a machlokas. If you remember, in our Mishnah, let's go back to the Mishnah if you've got a chance, the ability to look at it. The Mishnah says, where can you save the Sefer Torah to? To a Mavui which is not a through and through. Now we have to understand what is the machlokas between the Chachamim and B'seir. What were they arguing about? That means they both agree that you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah. They're arguing to which kind of Mavui you're allowed to save it to. So the Gemara says, the Rambam Pirush Mishnah says a very nice line. Normally, when we talk about Mavui Mefulish, what do we mean? We mean not a cul-de-sac. We mean a road, like let's say King's Road, where it is not closed at either end. And the Rambam Pirush Mishnah usually doesn't explain so much. The Rambam Pirush Mishnah says that cannot be pshat in our Mishnah. Why cannot that not be pshat in our Mishnah? Because Chazal would never have permitted somebody to take a Sefer Torah from a burning house to a Movish and a Fulish. Because that looks like an Issa D'Oraisa. It's not Issa D'Oraisa, it's only D'Rabbanan. But since it looks so close to an Issa D'Oraisa, Chazal would never have permitted it. So the Gemara straight away from the outset knows that when the Mishnah says Movi Mefulish, we don't mean a Movi Mefulish. What we just mean is a Movi which is not perfect. So what way is not perfect? So more explains like this. Omar Chista. Sholish mechitzos v'shnei lechin zeu Movi shenim Mefulish. If it's got 3 walls, as we said, the Movi has 3 walls. As you go, it's got 3 walls at the end and on the sides. And 2 lechin, that's 2 posts of each, that means a post on each side. Zeh movish mefulish, that is a movi which is not a through and through. Shalish bechitas v'lechi echad. If it's only got one post, zeh movi hamefulish. And therefore, according to Rav Chisda's explanation, the argument between Tanakama and Ben Beseva was as follows. According to Tanakama, you're only allowed to save a Sefer Torah if the movi has two things. It has 3 walls and 2 posts. If it doesn't have 3 walls or it doesn't have 2 posts, you can't save the Sefer Torah. You have to let the Sefer Torah burn. According to Ben Beseva, you're allowed to save the Sefer Torah even if it's only got 1 post. That's the machlekes between Tanakama and Ben Beseva. The Mishnah says mefulish. In mefulish, it's referring to whether it's got 2 posts or 1 post. That's the machlekes between Tanakama and Ben Beseva. Says the Gemara. But Shavai Aliba do Abeleza. That's not. The Mishnah is now getting a 3-way machlekes how to make a movi permitted to carry it. There's that. Hechsha movi. How does one make a movi kosher? You have to have both. Oh, you hold like this Shabbat, you're machbid. You have to have a post and a beam. We pass like this. You only need to have one or the other. That means either you have a post, a pillar, either you have a beam across at the end of the movi, or you have a post at the end of the side going upwards. Right? If you look at it over here, either you have a beam across, or you have a post at the end over here. Either one works. And therefore, that is good enough. That's Beisil Shit. Says more, you have to have 2 posts. Again, so got B'Shamay say you need to have a beam and a post. We still say you need to have either a beam or a post, or Ben says you need to have 2 posts. So now, let's go through it again, and the question now becomes very, very obvious. We have a machlekes how to make a movi kosher. Rav Chisda explains that our Mishnah is going to Shittas Rabbi Eliezer. Shittas Rabbi Eliezer is what? That normal movi has to have 2 posts. And therefore, the machlekes Tanakama ben Beseva is as follows. Tanakama of our Mishnah holds you're only allowed to save a Sefer Torah if it has 2 posts. Ben Beseva says you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah even if it's only got 1 post. Says the more obvious questions. If it's got so much that it's got 3 walls, plus it's got the fact that it's got a post next to it, you're going to call that a through and through. In what way is that a through and through? It's got 3 walls and it's got a post. It's almost kosher according to Beis Hillel. It's 100% kosher to carry that. That's a seicha eichin mashkin. This is a very, very strong question. You have Chisda said that our Mishnah is talking about where it's got 3 walls and 2 posts in the game of Shittas Rabbi Eliezer. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, in such a situation, the mob is 100% kosher to carry it. If it's 100% kosher to carry it, why does the Mishnah start off the peg? You're allowed to save your Sefer Torah there. You're allowed to save everything. There's no issue to carry. You're not doing anything wrong. This mob is a perfect mob. You've got 3 walls. You've got your 2 posts. You pass like Rabbi Eliezer, 2 posts works. So you shouldn't just be allowed to save your Sefer Torah. You should be allowed to save your cholent and your apples. And anything that you might want to save, you should be allowed to save because there's nothing wrong with this movie. Elo maraba, shtei mechitzes shnei lechin, zeh movie shin mefulish. Shtei mechitzes lechi echad, zeh movie mefulish. V'shavayu aliba do Rabbi Yehuda. There's a shittas Rabbi Yehuda which we do not pass like a very, very big chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that even a rishus rabbi that has a road going all the way through, imagine Berry New Road, a single rishus rabbi. If you've got walls going both down both ends, that means there's walls on each side of the road, which many roads do. Like the M62 has like a, what's the word for it? Not banisters. What? The hard shoulder. You have more hard shoulders than the tefachai, 10 tefachai. It's got a barrier. Yeah, they've got barriers on each side. So if according to this, since it's got a barrier on both sides, all you need to do is add a post and you've got yourself an area that you're allowed to carry. If you look over here in the picture, if you can see it, here's a road going through. It's got walls on each side. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you just add a post and you've already got yourself an area that you're allowed to carry. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, if you've got a house on each side of Berry New Road and you want to carry between the 2 houses, you just put a post or a pillar across. We discussed this actually in the first book, I don't know if you remember. And you're allowed to carry. Because according to Rabbi Yehuda, since you've got 2 walls, that takes it away from Shus Rabim, and then you add a post or beam, and that's good enough to make it. So now again, let's see it again. Elo marav, shtei mechitzas to add 2 walls, shtei lechin, and 2 posts, so movish and mefulish. Shtei mechitzas v'lechi echad, so movish and mefulish. V'shavai lebu do Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya, yes, I can Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said even more than that. Shtei bottom, shtei tzidor Shus Rabim. Person has 2 houses on 2 sides of Shus Rabim. Oy, so lechin yikan v'lechin yikan. He makes a post on each side, or a beam on each side. And you're allowed to carry in the middle. So you just put a beam on each side, and you're allowed to carry. So if you've got, assuming that Be'er New Road will be Rosh Hashanah, and you've got a house on each side of Be'er New Road, you just put a beam across each, one beam across the beginning of the house, one beam at the end of the house, and you're allowed to carry in the middle. Come say not allowed to. So again, Rabbi explains our Mishnah that our Mishnah is going to Shittas Rabbi Yehuda that you are allowed to make it. And therefore the Chachamim say you're only allowed to carry the Sefer Torah if it's got 2 posts and 2 walls. And the Sefer says, even if it's got 1 post, you're allowed to carry in it, as long as it's got 2 walls. And they're both given Shittas Rabbi Yehuda that works. It's very schwer what Rabbi was trying to answer. If Rabbi says that our Mishnah is going to be Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, and Shittas Rabbi Yehuda is what? That when you've got 2 walls, we only need 1 beam or 1 post to make it kosher. If that's the case, so you only need 2 beams or 2 posts to make it kosher. And our Mishnah talk about a case which has 2 beams and 2 posts. So why does the Mishnah only talk about saving a Sefer Torah? You can save everything inside, any food or any drink. That means the same question which Rabbi asked of Chisda, you can now ask Rabbi. If our Mishnah is going to be Shittas Rabbi Yehuda, and our Mishnah, when it says a Mavu She'enim Mefulash, it's referring to where you've got 2 walls and you've got 2 beams, so then it's properly kosher. If it's properly kosher, why did the Mishnah say you're only allowed to save a Sefer Torah? You're allowed to save everything. Elama Rashi, top of Kufyut Zayin with base, Sholosh Mechitzis V'Lechi Echad. 3 walls and 1 lechi, ze Mavu She'enim Mefulash. Sholosh Mechitzis B'Loi Lechi, ze Mavu Mefulash, V'afilu Lo Abelezet, Omar Binon Lechim, I'll explain exactly. So Rashi holds that our Mishnah is going to be Shittas Rabbi Eliezer. Shittas Rabbi Eliezer is what? That you have to have 3 walls and you have to have 2 posts. And 2 posts. And if you don't have 2 posts, you're not allowed to carry in a mob. And says Rav Ashi, our Mishnah is talking about a case where you don't have 2 posts. You only have 1 post. Since you only have 1 post, you can't save your food and drink. You can only save things which Chazal were permitted, which is like a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, things like that. But you can't save anything less than that because it's only 1 post. Came along Ben Basir and says, even if there's no post, so according to Rashi, there are 3 levels. Our mission is going to be Shittas Rabbi Eliezer. If the Mavoi has 3 walls and 2 posts, you're allowed to save everything from your house. If it's only got 1 post, you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah and Tefillin according to the Chachamim. If it's got no posts, then you're not allowed to save anything according to Tanna Kama. According to Ben Beseira, you're allowed to save a Sefer Torah and Tefillin. So Tosfos and Ramban, they all asked the Kasha, that what was the Havman of Rabban and Chisda? What were they thinking? And here Tosfos says a very interesting svar, that they thought like this, that even if it's a Mavui, which generally one is allowed to carry, here it's forbidden to carry. Why is it forbidden to carry over here? Because in the process of carrying, for the saving of the fire, you may come to do an Issa D'Oraisa. So it could very well be that there were more machmir than the normal mavui over here. And only according to Rav Ashi, there were more meikor. And Tosfos points out that since we passed the Maisa according to Beis Hillel, and according to Beis Hillel, even 1 post is good enough, so our Mishnah should have been b'derech. Our Mishnah is not Negei Maisa. Why? Because according to Rav Ashi's explanation, our Mishnah spoke about it's only got 1 post, and you're matted to save the Sefer Torah. But we passed like Beis Hillel that 1 post is kosher. So therefore, you're allowed to save everything, not just Sefer Torah. Our Mishnah is going to be Shittas Rabbi Eliezer. Okay, so we'll stop here. Any questions? No. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll start with Hashem, the new Mishnah on Daf Kufyut Zayin on the base. Tomorrow with Hashem 8:10. Shkoyach. You okay, Ian? Is everything okay?
Yeah, Shkoyach. Thank you.
Atzlacha Ben. Okay.
Yeah, Shkoyach.
Not in the amount you're allowed to save. What?
Why not?